Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business of Business podcast. I'm Roy. We are the podcast that we bring you a wide range of guests from a lot of disciplines that have to do with the running of businesses. We typically speak to solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and small business people. So we want to give them some things to think about, and we also want to give them some resources to reach out to help them be more successful in their journey. So today we have an awesome guest. It's Sir Sanjay Ganglani. He is the founder of Gang and Lani Media, serving the global business community across Canada, US, Europe, and Africa for the past 10 years. The company specializes in serving clients in marketing, traditional and digital, with a primary focus on search engine optimization, social media, design and branding, print, and website development. So, without further ado, Sanju, it is awesome to have you with us today. Thanks for taking time out of your day.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Now, of course, your family is a family of entrepreneurs. So, this is kind of, you've been able to learn growing up the dedication and the support necessary to make it uh, to be successful in business. And I think that's awesome. You also have been knighted by the order of, and I'm going to let you pronounce that and tell us a little bit about it because I don't want to butcher the name.
Sure. It's a Saint Salenius. It's an order out of Poland, actually. So technically, I'm a Polish knight, which is kind of funny. Um,
Oh,
and it was basically awarded to me last year, actually almost exactly a year ago, for the work that we do in the community. So we do a lot of work with women entrepreneurs and people, students that are looking for scholarships or help to kind of get to the next level. So we kind of work a lot with them, and
okay.
that work was fortunately recognized in the community, and I was knighted last year for that. It was pretty cool.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you kindly.
I
This
don't
is
know that we've ever had somebody has been knighted on the show, so that's a first for us. Well, you cover a lot of ground, and so I thought we would take this opportunity just to kind of, we're not going to have time to delve into all these subjects. I mean, we could spend hours and hours on each one of these topics, but let's just kind of take it from the point of view that we got a new entrepreneur out there starting his own business, or maybe there's somebody in business that wants to redevelop their web presence. So let's kind of just start at the beginning with, the website development.
so it's kind of funny because it's digital marketing is one of those things where it's not just one thing. It's not just websites. It's not just social or SEO. It's sort of this whole ecosystem that works together with the foundation. So the analogy I usually use is that of a young lady getting ready to go out on a Saturday night. So if you look at visualize it, sort of the first thing that they go out and do is they're at home, they put on their foundation, and we kind of refer the foundation of their makeup to a website. So the first thing and the most important thing that everyone looks at nowadays, it's no longer your business card, it's really your website. So when they're looking you up, whether you're running an ad campaign or whether they just got your business card or spoke to you, they go to your website, and that's sort of what kind of judges you or gives you that
Yep.
clout that you need, right?
Yep.
So to me, that is by far the biggest and most important investment that you need to make. But the key with the websites that we find with new entrepreneurs, or in honestly with people who've been around for a while, is a lot of us look at the website as what we would like to see, right? So we
Exactly.
have this disconnect where it's sort of some of us, like myself, I'm always a lot more creative, so I want that sexy, creative, artistic website. Versus you got the
Right.
guy who's like, dude, I came here to find out what you do, and I need to get in and out in 1 minute or less. So
Right.
helping
Right.
helping new entrepreneurs understand that the site may not look or feel or represent your personality, but it needs to reflect the people you're trying to target. And I think that's a big gap that people find
Okay. Yeah.
in this ecosystem, is that when they go into it, they build this beautiful website, and God bless them. But when it comes to convert or get people on the website to use it, they find that it's not quite what they wanted, or the
Yeah.
quality of what they're bringing to the website in terms of leads isn't who they're really targeting. So
Right.
the time that goes into a website, and you have anyone that'll tell you, hey, I'll do it in 48 hours, to guys who say this will take 4 6 months. But there's value in both scenarios, right? The websites has become so diverse that's no longer going in and building a one-page website and saying, all right, I'm good for 10 years. It's looking at now, am I an e-commerce site? Am I a small business? Am I a consultant? Am I a restaurant? And kind of that expands or contracts the depth of your website, right? Or what you're going to do with it. And then, some of us, some of the larger organizations or someone who's trying to build something more long-term sustainable, you want to go through the whole design process, right? Actually creating the mock-ups, making sure that things are placed properly, that you do the testing before you even start development. Versus, a lot of the new startups or a lot of, guys out there who are, running a restaurant or starting out a new bakery or looking at a new real estate, brokerage or whatever it is, just need something to kind of get up there and get the messaging out there. So it's understanding where to put your money and how to kind of put your time, but it's also understanding that there's value to making sure that foundation is laid properly.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of adds a little bit air of legitimacy nowadays. Not that somebody can't fabricate a false website, but if you give somebody a business card without a website, people really question that. And I think it's a good research tool because, and we'll say with the higher dollar as we walk up the service or products that are going to cost more, I want to do some research to make sure who I'm dealing with, because unfortunately in this day and time, it's easy to give somebody a credit card number or write them a check and then never see them again. So and again, the website, I know it's not going to solve all of those issues, but I think it gives us as consumers a place to go learn more about it, who we may be hiring.
100%, right? It represents you at the end of the day, and it's unfortunate that a lot of people don't understand the value of that, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that people don't understand is, when they're building websites today, a lot of our clients are people that come to us are like, well, I just need a website up, and they're looking at 3 to 6 months out. Versus where we really need to start thinking is, how is this going to evolve in a year, 3 years, 5 years? Because you don't want to rip out those guts and make that investment again every time, right? You want to build something that's going to grow with you or give you that ability to completely customize it to whatever extent you need it to, right? And it's tough, right? Because a lot of people, again, it's not, you don't understand it. Just like yesterday, I had a plumber come to my house and he looked at my stuff. He's like, well, "Who did this? I'm a child." And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to know this, right? So I get it, right?
Yeah.
That's a different topic.
Right. Yeah. No, I get that. Sometimes people look on the back end and go, "What happened here?" But websites have evolved, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I've had guests, the last few guests I've had make me feel like I'm an ancient dinosaur age, because back when websites started, a web page was text, and it was basically you just regurgitated everything you could think about yourself, your business, your product, your service on one page. And that page may be, what we'd call like a standard, 10, 12 screen links of just, scrolling through text. And so, as things have evolved and as technology definitely has evolved, we've gone more to picture based and, pictures, videos, but more visual based than what back in the day. So talk a little bit about the integration of pictures and also the depth. I don't know, the easiest way to say is the depth of a website versus the length. So instead of having everything just all lined out on one page where people have to scroll, because I think it's we only have a few seconds to capture their attention. And so I'll let you talk to that, and then I'll jump in. I've got just a few things that observations that I've picked up.
But what's kind of fun is you just describing those websites. That's when I started developing websites. So it was Angel Fire and GeoCities, and it was all animated GIFs everywhere. It's like, woo, right?
Right.
And the more cheesier you can make it look, apparently that's the more effective it was, right? So
right, exactly.
It's funny because like those are the days when I used to literally open up Notepad and just code right off the top of my head. But you're right, it's evolved like crazy, right? And it's finding that solution, that platform that works for you is become more of a challenge. A lot of things that we need to start focusing on, or why I talk about ecosystem is, again, because you can build that website and you can stick it all on one page, and you can still do that, no problem at all. But if you're looking to build something that's going to generate leads, or that's going to attract that right type of client, that's when you need to start talking about the SEO side of it and talk about the lead gen side of it, and making sure that that strategy is fitting into this website that you're building. So little things like, making sure you have at least 500 words of content on every page, right? From a SEO perspective. Making sure that your copy is legitimately your copy, right? You didn't pull it off some site in Brazil, for example.
I'm going to stop you right there, because that's an important part that that's, it's been a change the last few years, but I'm not sure people really understand that. Is my understanding is that Google will not index anything under the 500 words that you speak of. So what you're saying basically is we need 500 words on a page in order to get Google to read it and index it where people can find
it. At least, yeah.
Yes.
Now, there's that fine balance of 500 words versus 5,000 to say the same thing.
Exactly.
And then, when we get into the SEO side, there's a whole difference of keyword stuffing versus legitimate content.
Exactly.
But for the purposes of the website side of it, it's making sure that there's enough on every page that people are engaged. And that needs to be a healthy mix of text, audio, potentially video, potentially, and imagery. We are getting much, I don't say lazier, but our attention span is definitely reduced significantly over the past few years.
Right.
And the problem is that, our audience, especially on the younger end, or our potential clients younger, they're literally going to look at it in 3 seconds on and off, right? They're going to engage with it or not, or they're going to understand it. So you kind of got to cater to everyone. So if you have sort of a mixed client base, your older clients will read the stuff, your middle-aged guys will probably watch the video, and your young guys look at the images and go yay or nay. So it's, making sure that you kind of capture everyone's attention and kind of get them to fill that magical form, right, and get in touch with you,
Right.
And giving them enough ammo to do so. The one-page website, in my opinion, is very starter, very, very, very starter. For most businesses, to me, that's going to last you maybe 3 to 6 months if you're starting to grow. So again, it's looking at that investment that you want to make, right? Do you want to make it one time up front and kind of expand and scale? Or do you just want to test the business and see what happens, and you're okay with kind of going back and doing it again later on? And it's a tough decision to make, right? Because obviously when we're all starting something or we're in the middle of something, the goal is, hey, 30 years from now, I own the world, right? And then, there's a level of realism that has to kick in with that.
Right.
Into the scaling.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, I'm kind of jot some notes down as you go, because this is so important, but let's talk about the difference between stock pictures and more realistic pictures of people, operations, things. My opinion is that people look at stock photos now and they kind of like whereas if I have a picture of me and my dog, or doing something I enjoy doing, it's like it gives people a way to bond with you, connect with you. What's your opinion on that?
My opinion is exactly that. I mean, we usually refuse to use stock photos. The only time we use a stock photo if there really is no other way to convey that message or to that feeling, without having to hire an actor or whatever it is to pose for it. Most of our clients do prefer live action pictures. It's not necessarily the personal pictures, it's a lot of the professional pictures. We'd keep those personal pictures for their, about me page, let's say, or their social media. But from an overall website standpoint, let's say they're a dentist, for example, pictures of the practice, pictures of the hygienist, your happy patients that are actually patients, and leveraging those assets to convey the messaging that they want.
Yeah, and their equipment inside of their office, and that's those things that are it's important because you want to see, well, what does the inside of this place look like? So I think those are important.
It's
important distinctions
for like lawyers, right? Oh, look, another picture of a gavel. Yay, right? You know what I mean? I was like, where did you get that one from? So it's again, it's finding the right imagery to convey the message without getting into cheesy stuff, right? Or getting into cliche stuff.
Yeah. So let's talk about the length versus the depth, because that, again, I feel like is a change. And what I try to do is, instead of having everything run from the top to the bottom, and basically utilizing just one home page. It's um, what I've been told, and what I kind of feel now, is that we have that page that comes up, that it's really awesome if it fits right in the screen, but then we give people options to go deeper depending upon what they're looking for. And you mentioned about you. Maybe you want to find out, where did the dentist go to school? Maybe, there's other topics, that services, things like that, where they can click on whatever they're interested in and go deeper into a website, and not just, have something that's just flat and more linear.
So it's really multi-purpose. You kind of have to have both, and I'll explain. You need to have the short depth for the guys who land up on your website, and like you said, just really quickly want to get to know who you are, click a form and get in touch with you. But you kind of have to have the depth from an SEO perspective, because when you're running campaigns and you're running, let's say, again, let's go back to dentistry, for example, you're on an implant campaign. You want them to end up on the implant page that has details about what it is. You don't want them to end up on the services page that's just a high level overview. So you kind of have to mix both. And again, this will vary industry to industry, but majority of them, it pretty much need to have both, right? Because if I land up on your site because, Roy referred me to dentist XYZ, I'm just going to look around and see if I'm comfortable with the guy, right? But if I go through social media or Google and I'm looking for an implant, for example, I'm going to click and I want to learn about implants or what you think about implants and see if I align.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And I think that's more, maybe I misspoke. That's kind of more what I was talking about, but the front page kind of captures your attention, gives you the choices. And then once you click on it and get deeper, then that's where you have, the 500 word or more explanation, in-depth explanation about services, the about you, different things like that. It just, also, it keeps people from having to search, because in my opinion, when you have a long front page, I'm trying to search for this information, where if it's concise, even the visuals that, you have the block that says services or whatever, it's just, and, I'm guilty of losing all the patients that I used to have. And, I want it quick. I just want to click it a few times. I don't want to have to scroll, because, the longer I have to scroll and look for something, I become very unengaged, and I'll just move on to something where I can find it easier.
Well, you got to think this way. By the time they reach your page, potentially they're already so desensitized to the topic that they're not gonna read anything, right? I've always kind of said that a good website, no one really goes to the homepage, right? Because it's not really necessary. But if you're going to focus your efforts on the homepage, then above the fold of the browser, the window they're using, you should highlight your top 2 or 3 things that they're going to be looking for, right? So if it's a lawyer, let's say it's family law, litigation, and collections, or whatever it is that they specialize in, right? So those top 3 are right there, and then go right into it. They don't need to keep going if they don't want to.
So let's back up just one step. Something that just came to mind was the domain name. So, what is the science and the art behind, let's choose a good domain name? And it's gotten tougher. I'll tell you, there's so many websites out there. There's so many brokers that buy these things up, hoping to capitalize on them. So, what is the thought behind choosing a good one?
So okay, so this is a weird one for me because of the way I structured my stuff. So my primary domain is askusforanything.com. And the thought process behind that was, because we were a marketing agency, we could literally go out and source anything and find things. I mean, we've done stuff from weddings to conventions to things that, you normally wouldn't be able to do. But the way we shifted after a few years was, we have our primary domain, which is gnlmedia.com, which refers back to that page. So the science of a domain name. Number one, there's a branding aspect. So as close as you can get to your brand, get it. And then there's the vanity lead gen aspect. So if your strategy is to create a landing page about, just because I'm in it, let's say social media, I don't know, Idaho, buy socialmediaidaho.com, right? Build a landing page, drive the traffic to it, get your leads that way. But as your primary front-facing domain, it needs to be representative of your company brand, because that's what people are going to search for at the end of the day. In terms of the .com versus the .me, .co, .whatever, obviously .com is always preferred. But nowadays we sort of suggest to clients that they buy the .com, the .co, and probably the .net, just to secure the brand overall, because those are still fairly common and still being adopted by most people.
I had a guy I was talking to a few months ago that he had a .co, and in all his emails he always preferenced. No, I did not leave the M off of that. That's a .co. So right. Yeah, and what about going across all of our social media channels to make sure, if we're selecting a name, kind of not my personal name, but just a made up company name,
Yeah.
to go through all the social media channels to make sure that the same format or the same way you lay it out is available in all
That's
places.
getting really tough nowadays. It's actually crazy how hard that is. It's almost harder than domains nowadays.
Right.
So there's two ways of thinking of it. One is you make sure your primary ones are the same. So your Facebooks and your Instagrams are exactly the same. And your Twitters, I guess, mostly. Those three are the same, and everything else is what it is. You kind of work with some variation of it. Or like a domain, you find something that's sort of neutral but still speaks to you, like it's Sanju, it's Sanju, or it's Roy, or Roy official, or whatever it is. And find something that works across all of the mediums across that way. But it is getting way tougher. So usually, again, when TikTok came out, the first thing we told people is just, you're not going to use it, doesn't matter, secure the name. Go get your username, secure it, right? Because you never know what happens in a few years, right?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because I just wrote that down. TikTok. So I don't want to get all too far off on that, but for us people that have been around for a while, we'll put it nicely like that. TikTok used to be for dancing teenagers, but from what I'm hearing now, a lot more mainstream businesses are using it to, show processes, procedures, whatever. But I think they're like a minute clip, or maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
So TikTok's been interesting. Like you said, started off more as a teenage, something for my kid to do kind of thing. Then as they started developing an influencer community and developing more of a base of people that were able to sell product. It started picking up steam, right? And then obviously the good or bad PR, however you want to think of it, that came out across the states, just kind of propelled and pushed that forward, the interest in it forward. TikTok is great for I don't want to pigeonhole it, but I'd say the younger businesses, or the guys who have a social media team that can create the content, because it's very difficult to create content that's engaging with TikTok, right? Like you really got to go off brand sometimes to create something fun. But usually what we'd say is, create the TikTok video, but, use that in your marketing efforts on your Instagram, on your Facebook, on things like that. Create ads to advertise, get in front of the influencers there if you're, let's say, a clothing company, and leverage that side of it, right? So again, depending on the industry, it's really going to vary, the usefulness of it. Like, as a lawyer, I mean, what are you going to do, right? I mean, yeah, I'm the dancing lawyer. Like, I don't know, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
for that kind of stuff, there's much less room to do things. But if you can leverage it for the advertising, hey, you never know, right?
Yeah. And if you make a product, I think that was somebody was telling me that it's like a glass blower, maybe something like that he did a little clip about actually how he did the process. So, but I think the next part of that is, even if you can create content on there, on social media, we have to be careful about where our clients live, because I'm just thinking most of my clients probably not on TikTok. So while there may be a couple, would it really be worth my time and energy to create something?
And I don't see it same for us. I mean, I think we've posted maybe 5 videos today, maybe, but the main strategy was to secure the brand, right? And see So as long as you secure the brand, tuck it away in the closet, and if it applies to you one day, awesome, you got it. If not, at least you're clean.
So we kind of move on. So now we've got our cool website built, and now what we really need is people to put eyes on it. Search engine optimization, SEO, that's kind of the wizard behind the curtain that we talk about it, we know, but we know what it is, but do we really know how to do that? So let's talk about some SEO tips I know that you mentioned keyword stuffing. That's a no-no
Yeah.
nowadays. And
Same Pizza Hut.
but anyway, yeah, go ahead and tell us. So now that we've got our cool website set up, what are some things that we want to do to make sure that we are, optimizing it where people can find us or will find us?
So there's a few different kinds of SEO, right? There's the technical SEO, which is things in your website itself, your header tags or alt images, like whatever technically on your website that has to be optimized, working through those processes. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is what's called on-page SEO, which is what we've kind of been talking about a little bit, which is the content on your website. Making sure that, let's say you're looking to attract, I don't know, you're looking to attract a certain type of person looking for kids clothes, let's say, right? So, whatever's in your content around kids clothes has certain keywords. So let's say kids clothes Houston, kids clothes New York, cute tops for girls, things like that is within these content that you're building. So that when we do put that onto the search engines and push it out there, it signals to Google saying, hey, these guys are actually talking about this topic. And
Okay.
I'm very simplifying this quite a bit, just high
Yeah.
level wise. And then the third part is what's called off-page SEO. Off-page SEO is you reaching out to other websites with high domain authorities and saying, hey, can we post some content for you? Or can you post some content for us? Or what can we do to work together to kind of leverage our networks together? It's also leveraging things like Reddit's, Quora's, going in, responding to things. If you can get access to Wikipedia, I mean, God bless, then, doing something on Wikipedia.
Right.
But the goal is kind of tying that into backlinks, right? And making sure that whoever you're associated with, just like real life, whoever you're associated with has a good reputation and will take care of you, right? And help take you for that ride with them.
Yeah.
So all three of these things need to work together. The problem is that a lot of people tend to only do the on-page SEO, right? Which is, okay, we'll write a blog a month, we'll optimize the keywords, and we'll put it out there and good luck, buddy, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Which isn't, it's one third of the story, literally, right? So it's not necessarily the right thing to only be doing. And I understand sometimes it's a budgetary constraint and, somewhere to start at least, but eventually built into the plan should be attacking the other two, because as Google algorithms change, which I mean, this year they changed what, 3 times, 4 times, is insane.
Right.
They're constantly evolving and getting smarter, and you can't cheat the system, right? Like you can't take this blog and post it on 4 other websites, for the lawyer websites, for example, because they're going to
Right.
go, this is all copyrighted, right? It's not the same.
Yeah.
So being honest and transparent about what you're putting out there, investing in that content writer if you have to, just a little bit, even to give you, points to talk about, is well worth the investment in the long run. Because what you don't want to happen, and what we've seen with a lot of other, actually a good way that we gain a lot of clients is, they'll work with another company, Google will change the algorithm, they go from the first page to God knows where, and like, we
Right.
just blew 30 grand over 2 years or 3 years, where did it all go?
Yeah.
Right? Versus the way we build it takes, it may take 6 months to get you there, 8 months to get you there, which is fine. But when you're there, you're there. If you move from page one, you might move to page two, and then we can kind of sneak you back, by recalibrating.
Yeah. And there's so many tricks to that too, and you have to be careful, because just like we were talking about the keyword stuffing, it's a good way to get you taken off of the Google
You don't want
rankings
to get
completely.
blacklisted. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know how long that sentence lasts, but everybody, we kind of jokingly call it Google jail, but I mean, it can be devastating if you depend on web traffic for your business.
Understood. I mean, anyone that tells you, hey, I'll get you page one in 30 days or less, that's what's called black hat SEO. And I please just run. Just run, hide, like do what you got to do.
Yeah.
A proper SEO strategy, depending on the competitiveness of the industry, is at least 3 to 6 months to start getting you see traction.
Yeah, and we have to be patient to do it right. And there's no shortcut. There's just not. And that's why Google. And it's funny, because I was actually doing some research on search engines the other day, because somebody mentioned one from way back in the 90s. It's like, oh, I hadn't thought about that in a long time. But this is what actually really Google capitalized on, is that search engines, they just looked at words, and so keyword stuffing on a page was the way to go. But what happened is, the web pages became so spammy that
Yeah.
you could go to 10 different sites and it not really be what you were looking for. People would just put all these keywords on there and then try to sell you, some
Snake oil.
other crazy gadget. So, while it's tough, I think we have to be respectful of the fact that, it really, as the consumer on the other side of that, it's really been, a good thing for the industry because it kind of keeps everybody legit and not doing, these borderline hokey things.
I fully agree. And again, you also got to respect the guys who, how to have SEO strategies and maybe doing it the same way that they did 5 years ago. But, it's not their fault necessarily, right? Because things evolve so quickly. It's, and sometimes for us, it's kind of hard to keep up, right? And make sure that we're optimizing back.
Yeah. So behind the scenes, you're talking about the technical part. Like one thing I think about is the alt message on images. I tell us a little bit more about that.
So the key is to with alt. So first of all, for whoever doesn't know about, so alt images is when you hover over the image, it'll usually pop up a line of text and say "boy with blue shorts," right? Alt alt text on image is very important for our friends that may have visual disabilities or other disabilities. To make sure that they can have an optimum experience as well, right? And that's fair. Everyone's got to play together. It's fair for that. So the purpose of that is to be able to succinctly describe what the image is, while not becoming a whole paragraph, right? So what we usually say is, it's giving what's in the picture, maybe a color of the picture, and describing what's happening in the picture in terms of an action, but no more than, let's say, 12, 15 words, like max, right?
Okay.
The other key part is, a lot of people get lazy because guys on the front end, clients don't understand or see the back end. So the developer will go in and put boy blue shirts, boy blue shirts, boy blue shirts, boy, and it's all the same thing. And it's like, but it's not the same image. So that actually gets you dinged by Google because they're like, they're just using the same image over and over again. So, what are you trying to do? Right. And the other cool part is that if you do tag it properly, it starts to show up in Google Photos. It starts to show up in those searches, which just gets you more exposure at the end of the day.
So, and that brings up the difference between pictures and videos. And this has been a while ago, but somebody told me that it was more or less with blogs. Used to, when you blog, you just put the text up there and that was it. So then it was, well, we add pictures, now add video. And a guy told me once that when you use a picture, it's like leaving breadcrumbs to your blog or to your website. When you use a video, it's like leaving chocolate covered breadcrumbs to the same place. So is there really more value to use videos where appropriate versus a picture versus nothing at all?
So, I mean, as much as, the old adage of, pictures worth 1,000 words, YouTube is actually the biggest search engine in the world. So it's not even Google, it's actually YouTube, which owned by Google, same difference, but right. So I mean, that, I think to me, that's a huge statement in terms of the value and the power of video. Especially nowadays, just culturally, the amount of streaming services and content out there, everyone's just moving towards a model where they'd rather just watch something in 30 seconds to a minute than actually have to focus and read it, right? Yeah, there's just so much content. But so I think being able to serve people's needs or serve them in a way that they want to be served content is probably obviously more optimal for your success, right? But like I said in the beginning, we need to have that balance of the three types of content, right? Just to make sure we cater to everyone.
And what about services like Yoast, and you read about some of these others they have on page? Are those valuable? I'm sure they're not as valuable as hiring a professional like yourself that can really dig in and go much deeper. These are very superficial and can give you some guidance, but are they effective in helping out?
So Yoast is actually pretty good. Again, if you just need to get some sort of a head start on it and get some understanding of how to optimize your page a little bit, Yoast is actually a pretty good tool. I mean, I know we've used it a few times. If we got stuck on something or trying to figure out a more creative way to do it, we'll go to it for inspiration. But the power, the results you're going to get comes from combining more of the industry tools behind it and meshing it all together, right? Like you said.
Yeah.
But yes, as someone who just built a website and wants to just get understanding of where they stand from an SEO perspective, I mean, I think Yoast is probably one of the more solid ones,
Okay.
and more reliable ones out there.
And you mentioned earlier backlinks, the importance of them, and that's a difficult game to play because you do have to take a lot of time to reach out. But again, the value of that, if you can land them, is phenomenal. But let me ask you this: so a true backlink would be, let's just use Microsoft or in MSNBC or some huge website, a big presence like that. If they had an article written by me and they had a link to my website, that's a true backlink. Now, if I just put a link to one of these major presence on my website, is there any value to that?
There's value to them, very minimal, but there's value to them, not you, right?
To them.
The hard part about backlinks, if you've had a website up for 5, 7, 10 years, is the original strategy of backlinks was immense quantity, immense. You didn't care if it was a DA1 or DA100 site at that point. You just wanted a million links. What happened a few years ago when they changed the algorithms is we literally had to go through some client sites and clean out thousands and thousands of backlinks because the whole thing changed, and rightfully so, to quality versus quantity.
Right.
So, I'd say looking at backlinks, I don't think it's the primary of your strategy. It's one of those things that supplements and helps it move. But if you're going to do it and you're going to invest in it, make sure it is in quality. And it's, again, with pages or brands or blogs or whatever it is that you want to be associated with.
Yeah, it begs to mention this right now. We'll talk about, because we're not going to get deep into social media, but with social media, there's a difference between actual quality likes and in engagement versus just vanity likes and vanity engagements. And so with backlinks, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people out there that'll tell you they'll get you these backlinks, for $5 a backlink, 10 or 50 or whatever. But again, they have what I call a backlink farm, where they just have some old website that they're putting all these backlinks to you. Again, Google has wisened up to this, and there are penalties if you do that too much.
They do. And what's interesting too is there's a lot of and not to knock anyone, but there's a lot of digital agencies that build the websites and build their own farms that way. So they'll leverage your website and get it ranking on SEO, but only because they're leveraging the other 50 sites that they're working on or have up and running, right? So as soon as you leave their ecosystem, it was a complete waste of your time, right? So it's kind of dirty, but I guess it is what it is.
Right. Yeah, and again, it comes to be quality over quantity. One, in what I think you called it a DA, is that like a domain authority?
Domain authority, yeah.
There are different levels where the Google, the Microsoft, and NBC, they're way up there, and then the rest of us are somewhere way down below that.
But what's funny about that? You even get dinged for that. If you're a small company and you suddenly show up at the DA90 site, Google's looking at you going, "How did you do that?" So it's a bit of a weird game where you kind of got to balance, okay, well, no more than 50 for now, and then add a few 50s, then move up and kind of go from there. So it's really a bit of a science behind it, right? And making sure that you're always compliant and making the Google gods happy.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't want to make them mad, for sure. Yeah, because I was looking at I have a little stat tracker that I looked up the other day, and I think Google's still at 95%, 92, 95, somewhere crazy of all the search traffic in the world right now. So you definitely have to play by their rules, and it's constantly changing. They're always upgrading and doing so. You need to find somebody that can stay on top of that.
100%.
Well, again, we appreciate you taking time out of your day. So I want to ask you, what is a tool that you use in your world? It can be professional, it can be personal, and it not just a tool, but it could be a habit or some kind of a ritual, something that you do every day that you just can't do without.
I rely heavily on, and I know it's not quite a ritual or a tool, but my team. I got to say that. I think,
Yeah.
knowing that the team that we have behind us, knowing that, the brain power that we have behind us and the passion that they all have for the clients and for what they do, that's what really is my kind of ritual. Waking up in the morning going, all right, we have really good people who love what they do and we just want to take over the world. And I think having that motivation and having that mutual respect between all of us is really what kind of keeps things moving and driving and keeps us aspiring to do more and more.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all. No, that's a good answer because it does gives us that peace of mind when
Yeah.
we
I mean,
open
we've
the
all
door
been there,
every day
right?
that we've got, yeah, we've got a good team behind us instead of worrying about is anybody going to show up or what things may happen during the
Yep.
day. So
I get to
no,
keep
that's
my hair.
perfect.
Everyone's good, right?
Exactly. All right. Well, if you don't mind, before we go, tell everybody who is your client, what can you do for them, and then, of course, how that they can reach out and get a hold of
So our client is really anyone that wants to grow. So the way we operate is we don't specialize in any one industry or any one size of client. We work with people who are interested in going down a path with us, um, wherein they trust our process and let us help them grow. So we're very bespoke in that way, and we're very limited in that sense that we really come and become an extension of their business. So that's really what we're looking for. But we're always happy to give out advice, and we're always happy to work and talk to people and meet new people. It's all part of the process of growing. You can find us online at askusforanything.com or the number 4a.com. That's easier. Our Instagram's at GNL Media. And you can just look me up on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to connect and have any conversations with people.
you. All right, great. And we'll put all those in the show notes for you as
Nice.
well. All right, Sanju, thanks so much again. It's been an awesome, and what I really need to do is get, we'll set up a time for you to come back because, like I said, we could take hours upon hours to talk about each and every one of these subjects. We didn't even get social media or the branding, design and branding component. So we'll do that and get you back on soon.
Thank you. I
All right.
appreciate it very much. Thank you.
You bet. All right. Well, that's going to be all for today. Of course, we are the Business of Business podcast. You can find us at www.businessofbusinesspodcast. Also, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and this video of this interview will be put up on YouTube as well. So, again, if you have any uh, ideas that you would like us to address, please reach out to me at Roy at thebusinessofbusinesspodcast.com, and we'd be glad to, find subject matter experts to help you out. Until next time, take care of each other.